You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
Another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. Your boy Pat Lane here, as always, with my guy Matt St. Jean. And this episode, as always, is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media. And Matt, we're here to talk about, I don't even know if we could talk, I guess we're going to talk about the game in Dallas, but we really are here to talk about the game in Foxborough because man, that game in Dallas, if there's ever been a, burn the tape and never watch it again, which of course we watched a 40-minute JT O'Sullivan breakdown, but, still like burn the damn tape and move on, right?
Yeah, it's that kind of performance. And yeah, we want to move forward here to the game against New Orleans. Just, there's problems that have to be fixed, and obviously the players aren't really going to burn the tape, but also these lessons are it's all things they can do. A lot of what happened in Dallas was just, everybody, the problem snowballing and everybody digging the hole one shovelful deeper. Mm-hmm. And, you can take stuff away from the first quarter, maybe the second quarter of that game. Third and fourth quarter, you're not taking anything away. You're just, throw it in the trash, move on, try to find a way to get a win on Sunday and go from there.
Right. Yeah. You know what? And what's crazy about it, and for me personally, at least, and I tweeted this out and I'll say it again on the podcast, and I don't know if I said it on the instant reaction or not, but I feel like Sunday kind of confirmed for me that Mac Jones just isn't the guy. He's just not the guy moving forward. And I know, look, I understand that it's one game and we shouldn't overreact about one game, but I just feel like we've been seeing these same things from him. And JT, I thought, did a great job. And guys, if you're not subscribed to the QB School, JT O'Sullivan does an incredible job, breaks down every quarterback from every week. Like he's incredible. And he just grinds the tape, and he does like a 35-minute breakdown. And he talks about every play, and he draws it up, and he shows you what the quarterback's supposed to be doing. He shows you what he did wrong, shows you what he didn't do wrong. It's impressive. It's impressive. And watching that, and I know, look, I understand Mac Jones is not going to play as poorly as he did in Dallas every game. I get that. I know that. The problem is that knowing that he has that in him, and knowing that we've seen not that bad, but we've seen that stuff before from him, and knowing where his ceiling is capped, it just, you look at it and say, you're never going to really win in the league with this guy, unless he 100% figures that out and doesn't have those types of games anymore. And he just hasn't shown over the first 3 years of his career that he's going to put those behind him.
And in terms of this season, he's on the third hole and he's out of mulligans. That's basically where it is. And with this offense, he doesn't have a driver in his bag. Right. That's basically the situation that he's in, and you got to shoot par. It's going to be a tough needle to thread. And that's I said, I'm not out on Mac Jones, but I'm as close to that as you can get.
Yeah.
While still believing a little bit.
Right.
And part of it is you have him cheap under contract for this year and next year. So, while you're still figuring out what's going on, he's not an awful quarterback, but as the franchise guy, what happened this past Sunday is the type of thing you can only stomach once every 2 or 3 years and right. Be okay with it. A meltdown to that variety of that variety. And like you said, JT O'Sullivan talked about some of it. There's one play in there I'll mention that I think really stood out. There's a concept the Patriots have run since year one with Mac Jones. For those who play Madden, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about once I start describing this. They put 2 receivers on each side of the formation. One side, it's going to be a slant flat. So the outside receiver is going to go 3 steps forward, cut to the middle of the field. The inside receiver is just going to kind of drift outwards and be open. The other side of the field, there's 2 receivers, and it's what's called a stick concept. So the outermost receiver is going to drift outwards in some variety, and the inside receiver is going to run a couple yards, and then based on what the defense is doing, either stop or break out a little bit and stop. There's a couple of varieties of it. But they run this, and it's a quick hitter. You're basically picking before the play which side you're going to read, and you're going to high-low the defense, and you're not going to get anything more than like 4 or 5 yards on it most of the time unless you're breaking tackles, but you're pretty much guaranteed some kind of a completion and to start moving the ball.
Right.
And they called one of those for Mac, I think, after his fumble and his pick six. And he ran it up the middle immediately. He didn't even look at the receivers. He had guys open. And that's just so far outside of what he does. It's just the way JT O'Sullivan was describing it was like the fourth string quarterback in a high school game who really plays a different sport, who gets put in at quarterback at some point and who realizes, oh man, they're all trying to tackle me.
Right.
And just panics and runs. And it's like you can't afford that with Mac Jones, not with a guy who's supposed to be winning with his mind.
No. And it's funny because JT pointed out another one too, and it's similar, very, very similar concept, except you had, slant flat, right? On the right side, slant flat. On the left side, I don't know. I'm not sure what the outside guy was doing, but I know Henry was on the inside running a flat. And here's the more shocking thing for me about the play that he highlighted was that both the slant on the right and the flat on the left were wide open. Now, the slant on the right may have been NFL open, but I think it was more NFL wide open. It might have been college open. Like the flat route on the left, right on the left, that was Pop Warner open. I mean, that was there was nobody on the sideline with him. And instead of sitting back, Mac does the same thing, gets to his third step of his drop, and immediately takes off the field. And then a defender closes on him, so he tries some ridiculous shovel pass garbage towards Ramondre Stevenson, which bounces a yard in front of him because it was just like, what in the world could you have possibly been looking at? And look, I get it. The Cowboys are really good up front. The Patriots offensive line, by every metric you look at, has been terrible. I understand it, right? Trent Brown's playing pretty well. Beyond Trent Brown, they've been awful. Awful. Doesn't matter who's playing left guard, he's sucked. David Andrews hasn't played very well. Mike Onwenu played horrendous on Sunday.
3 penalties in the first half.
And, Vidarian Lowe ain't cutting it at right tackle, okay?
No.
And so, so it's been bad. And I understand that. I totally get it. But at some point, you can't tell me that you can't throw a slant route on a 3-step drop or a flat route on a 3. You can't tell me that, man. And so that's the stuff for me where I look at it and look, Light Engine's asking a good question here, right? Has Mac been giving a fair opportunity the last 3 years, right? Has Bill done all he could do to elevate his play, right? And listen, last year, and we're going to talk about Bill Belichick. We will talk about Bill Belichick. That's why the title of this thing is, why the Saints game is a turning point in his legacy. Last year, Bill screwed him, 100%. Screwed him, right? And I was a person in the camp that was like, well, I mean, it looks stupid, but he's got to know something. He didn't know anything. It was a stupid decision, and he screwed a year for Mac Jones, 100%. But we saw some of this his rookie year, and we said he's just a rookie. He's fine. He's playing well for a rookie. He'll get there. We saw a lot of this last year. And now we're seeing it again this year, and you're like, what? No, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. And it's it's the mechanics of it. It's the mind stuff. That's the stuff that's more frustrating because if Mac Jones is going to be good, he has to win with his mind. And frankly, he hasn't just been not winning with his mind. They've been losing because of his mind. And that is really bad.
You can't have it. And it's not, I don't think it's a matter of if he can do it. I think he's just getting rattled. He did this stuff in weeks 1 and 2. Yeah. It's not not whether he can do it. It's if he can do it and not get rattled. And so far, that hasn't been the case. And like as to the question of if he's been given a fair shot, probably not fully, but also you don't really need that to tell sometimes. Like he's leaving a lot of meat on the bone with some of this stuff. And I look at CJ Stroud right now down in Houston, and their offensive line's banged up, and their receivers aren't guys everybody was hyping up coming into this year. And yeah, they've played well, but like Stroud's done a really good job and elevated those guys, and that's not what's going on with Mac. And trust me, there's a lot of land to go around on this offense right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to completely bury just Mac because that is not fair to him.
Right.
But you can't leave this much meat on the bone in the offense and also not have the big plays to make up for it.
Right.
Like you just that is the part you can't live with. If you're going to be a distributor, then you have to be ridiculously efficient at it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's almost like the running game at that point.
Right. Well, and look, there are plays, right? There are plays we talked about in the Eagles game. Kendrick Bourne drops the 3rd and 12 pass in the Eagles game, right? Kendrick Bourne drops the deep pass. Was that in the Jets game? They dropped the deep. No, was that in the Eagles game as well, where he dropped the deep pass on the left sideline?
That was the Dolphins game.
That was the Dolphins game. Okay, so you have some plays that are out there that you wish would have been made. Obviously, you have the play to Kayshon Boutte where you wish he would have gotten his foot down. But we can sit there and talk about that. But how many times is he making that great throw? That was an unbelievable throw to Kendrick Bourne. It was a phenomenal throw to Kendrick Bourne on 3rd and 12 that he dropped. I get that. That's a tough catch by Kendrick Bourne. How many times is Mac making a great throw and asking his receivers to make a great catch? Because he's not doing it often, in my opinion. And so, it works both ways. You can't ask the wide receivers to be perfect and then give Mac, the benefit of the doubt because the wide receivers aren't perfect when, on every single play. It just, and I know they don't have any big play guys. It looks like they made a huge mistake in bringing in Juju and not keeping Jacoby Myers. That seems pretty obvious that was a big mistake, okay? And that's something they're going to have to live with, okay? So, yes, does it screw things up? It does. 100% it does, right? But you move on and you just say, hey, it is what it is, and we go from there. And so maybe that means that Juju doesn't play anymore and Pop Douglas takes over his role. I don't know. But it just, at some point, it's like, hey, you're not making enough plays for us to sit here and say that the receivers are letting you down. The receivers at times have let you down, but at times you've let your receivers down too, so it goes both ways.
It absolutely does. And another play from Sunday too that he had touched on and I'd picked up on watching the game, that first drive, like the throw to Gesicki in the back of the end zone.
Yep.
When you watch it back, Devontae Parker is wide open on a drag route over the middle of the field. If he catches it, it's either a walk-in score or if you throw it later, maybe the defender is there and it's, he's down at the 1, but you're picking up the first down at that point. And the way JT O'Sullivan was talking about it is that's the number 2 read on the play. You're going to go to something on the right side and then the drag route and then where Gesicki was. What he pointed out is that it looks like Mac is going through it too fast. If you watch his feet, it looks like it's the same thing. And it all screams that he does not trust the offensive line at all.
Right.
And this is twofold. You have to ask him to play like he trusts the offensive line, even if he doesn't trust the offensive line.
Correct.
That's the only way to do this because, sometimes you got to hang in there and take a shot and throw the ball anyway while you're getting hit and make a play happen. That's what elevates you. That's what separates people. You saw it happen from Dak in the game. Kyle Duggar lighting him up, and it doesn't matter. The play goes for a first down because he hangs in and makes the throw. You got to be able to do that. You got to be able to step up on stuff, and you just have to play in sync. Your mind has to play in sync with your body, which has to play in sync with the timing of the other guys on the field, and that's not the case. And that's not just on Mac Jones. And I don't know. I think part of it is you go through a lot of coaches and it's tough, but Bill O'Brien's a good coach. And Bill Belichick's not a bad coach here, and nobody thinks that. Some of it's just Mac has to get to this point. They're telling him all the right things. I guarantee
Right.
you they're not teaching him to have his feet be all over the place and have his timing all messed up. So he has to figure out a way mentally. And it's not like he can't do it. He did it in the game on Sunday. He made some really nice throws in the game on Sunday. It wasn't all bad. He does show you he can do it. But it's about doing it more consistently
That's it.
doing it without the bonehead stuff too.
Right. And that's, look, the issue that I have, and I know people, want to defend Mac, and I don't blame people for defending Mac, right? I got no problem with that. You want to defend Mac and say that Boston sports media is unfair to him. I agree with you. Like, there's a lot of Boston sports media that are very unfair to him and don't look at both sides of the story. However, we also have to look at the fact that his ceiling is not super high. He is a guy that's going to win pre-snap, and he's going to win mentally. And he hasn't done that enough. He's done that at times, but he hasn't done that enough. Okay. And so, yes, are the weapons around him great? No, this isn't the Bengals offense, right? I understand that. I get it, right? This isn't even the Vikings offense with Justin Jefferson. I understand, right? It's not for lack of trying. Now, we're going to get into Belichick, right? But it's not from lack of trying. They've traded. They've gone out and signed the consensus number one wide receiver in the market. They've paid big money for wide receivers that they thought had specific skill sets that they need. They've done those things. They've gone out and signed 2 premium tight ends, right? They went out and signed the number one tight end in free agency this year. So, they've done all of these things. But, at the end of the day, it hasn't really paid off. And I understand that. And again, we talked about the coaching has set them back as well. But again, at a certain point, you have to look at it and say, well, if the quarterback were making plays, you can see it. I mean, you can see it. I know guys aren't wide open. And the hard thing about screenshots is that screenshots don't tell you the whole story. You can screenshot any play at any moment, and it looks like everyone's covered, or it looks like everyone's wide open. You can't. You have to watch the play through to actually see if people are open or not.
With the timing too of what the quarterback's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Exactly. And that tells you the whole story. Fine. Okay. But if the quarterback's making the right reads and the wide receivers aren't there, or if the quarterback is making the right play and the wide receiver isn't there, fine. And look, here's a great example. The last interception he threw to Juju. All right. And JT broke this one down too. We keep talking about it. Just go watch the damn video. But,
yes.
On the last interception of Juju, number one, it was never open. But the idea behind the route was that Juju's the inside guy running an out. Okay. And so, fine. Okay. Juju is the inside guy. Those 2 outside guys have to run a rub on his guy to give him some time. Okay. And so they didn't. Neither of them did. Devontae Parker actually moved out of his way instead of trying to run into his path, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's wild to watch.
No awareness whatsoever from Devontae Parker. But the throw was late. His footwork was a disaster on that play. And the ball floated out there. If it had been a timing route, and the ball was right there, and Juju had it, but the guy stepped in front, okay, you'd say, hey, that was not on Mac. That's a timing route. He's just throwing it right there. But everything else is a mess. Yes, Parker screwed it up too. Juju didn't run a great route. We get it. But at the end of the day, it was a bad throw. And yeah. just one more thing. Do not ever use the names Josh Allen and Mac Jones in a sentence ever again, except for the fact that Mac Jones doesn't have a 10th of the arm talent and athleticism that Josh Allen has. Because at the end of the day, and listen, I talk to my dad about this all the time when we were watching the games. We're like, he's a hell of an athlete. Don't know if he can play quarterback, but holy crap, he's a hell of an athlete and has a cannon for an arm. They got him a number one wide receiver, and you see some of the things that he can do. Mac Jones isn't that guy, man. He's not. He's not that guy. He's not Tom Brady. If he's not winning with his mind, you're not winning big games with Mac Jones. It's just not happening. right? And Josh Allen still hasn't won a Super Bowl, right? But like, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And he makes boneheaded plays all the time, 100%. But he is a freak. And so you live with the boneheaded plays because he is incredible and he does things that nobody else can do on a football field. And so you say, all right, I can talk myself into some of this crap because he's so good in other areas. Mac Jones doesn't do that. There's zero, not one area where you look at Mac Jones and say, man, he's elite at that. It's unbelievable. We have to have that on our team. There's nothing, zero. He's mediocre. He might be above average in a few, but he's mediocre at most. And so it's like, why are we waiting around for his development if in year 3 he still isn't the guy we need him to be?
And not only that, like you're not waiting on untapped athletic potential. It's not like, hey,
Right.
if you read it's like, wow, he threw that 60-yard touchdown and then he threw a pick 6. We got to make sure we can clean that up. Yeah.
Right.
And it's not all negative. You look at that play he made to Pop Douglas on the first drive of the game.
Right.
He's not. Mac Jones is in some ways more athletic than Tom Brady, at least the young Tom Brady. He can throw on the move and he can do stuff like that. He can extend plays. He just has to do that while not throwing it directly to the defense. Things like that. And he gets out of the pocket probably a little bit more than he should, especially against elite pass rushes. He locks in on some of his reads a little bit more than I think he should. He's still accurate, which is kind of crazy because his footwork is super inconsistent, but he's accurate no matter what. But he doesn't throw a fastball, which means you got to throw with anticipation. Just to get his ball where it needs to be, he's got to know sooner where he's throwing it than other quarterbacks do, which is fine. He has enough arm talent to be in the league. It's not like he's late career Chad Pennington or anything like that. Like he's got the arm talent to be there. But he just has to win with his mind a little bit earlier, and it's not happening. And that's why, I do want to see how he looks against worse defenses here. I think part of the reason why New England's pass blocking stats are as bad as they are is that you play against a Philly defensive line that is dominant, and you get the Dallas defensive line, and you get the Jets defensive line, and that's not gonna help you. You're gonna get some easier fronts here, but the Saints front, it's no slouch. They're going to play Washington. Washington's got a pretty good front. Indy's got a pretty good front, I think. When they play them, they got some talented players there at least. So it's not going to be easy. There's still going to be some tough opponents, but there's some defenses in here that, in theory, this offense should be able to score against. I think you hope Tyquan Thornton can both come back and be a difference maker. If you're missing on Juju Smith-Schuster, then you the two guys you were hoping on this year were Juju and Tyquan to be difference makers in the offense. Juju, I don't think that's happening at this point. I don't think he's a bad player, but he's just kind of Devontae Parker without the contested catch ability right now. And you can put him on the field in blocking situations and use him rotationally, but nothing more than that. Tyquan's got speed. You hope that you can put that to good use and get some big plays out of it and go from there. Because I think you still want to win football games here, depending on what the future of this team is going to be. First and foremost, when we're talking about Bill Belichick, if that dude's been given a mandate that he has to win a certain amount of games to keep his job, he's going to try to win that number of games to keep his job. You look at the moves they made at cornerback today, which we'll have to talk about in here at some point. But I also think tanking can be a little bit overrated. I think this defense is really, really, really good right now. And I think it's a championship level defense if healthy. And I think you have a lot of leaders on this team. And if you're going to tank and lose a lot of that, I don't think that helps you. I think if you take this fully down to the studs, you risk the issue of getting rid of a lot of good players and talented leaders in the locker room.
Right.
And that's really hard to replace all at once while you're also bringing in talent. That's a very difficult thing to do. It's one of the some of the most successful teams out there have been teams that were good and talented, but had injuries, had bad records because of it, but kept the core. And maybe that's something the Patriots get a little bit lucky with. They have less wins than they should, and you get a high draft pick, but you keep this core intact, and you can go forward with like a top 10 talent on the roster. But like, I don't think you're trying to tear this down yet, and I don't think Bill Belichick's going to let it happen. I'd also like to enjoy my Sundays, so I hope they keep trying to win games.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's hard. I mean, like, JW points out, like, San Fran went 3-13 and then got Debo and Nick Bosa, right? I understand. I get that. Jimmy G also got hurt and was out for the year, and they were starting Nick Mullins at quarterback. Like, their team was understandable. You looked at it and said, hey, like, what are we going to do? Like, our franchise QB is out, and we're rolling with some guy that stinks, right? If Mac Jones gets hurt for the year and you're rolling with Bailey Zappi and you finish 3-14, well, then we look at it and say, well, what are you going to do? Like, Mac Jones got hurt. Bailey Zappi came in. He's not that good. Just is what it is. Maybe we switch to, Will Grier halfway through the year, and we can only win a few games because guys were hurt, and Christian Gonzalez gets hurt, and Matthew Judon gets hurt, and so on, right? But, like, just tanking, just putting your best players up there every week and tanking and losing every week is not good for your culture. It's not good for your team. And Belichick knows that, and I'm never going to do it.
That 4-12 Niners team in 2018, like, that team still had like really good players on it too. They had Kyle Juszczyk, they had George Kittle.
Yeah.
The offense was a little bit bare, but defensively, Fred Warner, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, DJ Reed, Richard Sherman, Akello Witherspoon, Solomon Thomas, a lot of guys who've been in this league.
Team. I think they traded for Trent Williams that offseason too, like after that year. I think they did. But
I don't know. I can try to find that out.
Anyways, all right, let's get to a commercial, and then we will come back. We got to flip the script and talk about Bill Belichick, because I'm telling you, boys and girls, this is it for me. This is it. This is a big moment in Belichick's Patriots tenure, and I'll explain why when we come back.
Snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Ages 21 and up and present, Massachusetts. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234.
Okay, so look, here's the thing with Bill Belichick. All right, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. To me, it's not up for debate. It is not debatable. Yeah. It is not like, oh, well, maybe. No. He is the greatest coach of all time. All right. What happened this weekend was just completely embarrassing. It was embarrassing. It was the worst loss of his career, of his Patriots career. It was the worst halftime deficit of his career. It was a complete embarrassment. And look, here's the deal, right? Bill Belichick wants to become the all-time winningest coach of all time. He does. He wants to. Let's not be on. Like, he is a football historian. He wants that record, right? I get it. But, like, people say that as a negative, as if, like, he just cares about winning. He cares about winning. Like, to get the record, he needs to win games. So, like, he wants to win as much as possible. And so, like, I think that's okay, right? But, like, here's the thing for me, and this is what I'm looking at. He's the GM. He's built this team. He's made countless mistakes. And, again, if Tyquan Thornton doesn't start paying off, we're going to look at another wide receiver miss with another wide receiver that got taken after him that I think was obvious in George Pickens that they didn't take, right? Even Alec Pierce has been okay for Indy. Really not that great, but all right, at least. And so we can second guess that. right? There's a bunch of picks we can second guess if we're being honest, right? But we're in this situation because of Bill Belichick, right? You talk about Jacoby Myers and Juju Smith-Schuster, but here's the big thing for me: beyond the roster building, beyond everything else, Bill Belichick's teams don't get blown out often.
No.
When they do, they come back the next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone remembers 2014, right? Brady gets benched. They have one of the worst games of Kansas City. It was 41-14. They go on to Cincinnati and they blow the doors off of the undefeated Cincinnati Bengals. Just absolutely kill them the next week. Okay. In 2021, they got smoked by the New Orleans Saints at home. It was an embarrassing game. Right? It was an awful game. It was the Jonnu Smith game where Mac threw 4 picks and one of them got returned for a touchdown because Jonnu Smith literally ball in his hands, dropped it, and the guy returned it for a touchdown. It was embarrassing. The next game was Tampa and Tom Brady, the Super Bowl winners, right? Or I guess the defending champions, right? They played their asses off in that game. Right now they lost, but they played their asses off in the game. They came the next game and showed up and played really well. All right. So there's that one. And even last year, you want to go back to last year? Last year, they got embarrassed on Monday night to the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears haven't won a football game since they beat the Patriots 33-14. They literally haven't won a football game. That was last October 24th. That's the last game that the Chicago Bears have won as an organization. And so, that's as bad as you can possibly get. Mac Jones getting booed at home. What do? They go into New York the next week. And look, New York, I get it. They go into New York the next week and beat the Jets 22-17.
Yeah. So, you go back to 2020. They had that blowout loss at home against San Francisco. They won, I think, 4 of their next 6.
Right.
After that one. And their next game was a loss at Buffalo, but that was the Cam Newton fumble game. That game should have gone to overtime, or they should have won it in regulation, which the number of games that they've had that were one-possession games where they were in field goal range and fumbled in the last 4 years or 3 years or whatever is insane and makes me want to pull my hair out. But what did they do in 2009 after the Saints game that year? Do you remember? I can try to pull it up if you don't.
I don't remember. I do remember that they did eventually come back from that. I think
they lost the next week at Miami and then won 3 in a row.
So, and how did they play?
And it was
against
a 1
Miami?
point loss on the road.
So, see, that's the thing. See, it's not about getting the win
much
the next
better.
week. That's what it is. Show up and play, right? Show up and play hard, and that's all it is to me, right? Is we looked at it and said, okay, they played like absolute garbage. It looked like they gave up, and I know they didn't give up, but it looked like they gave up on Sunday against the Cowboys, and I would say they never even showed up. It looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they need to come out on Sunday and play really well against this Saints team. This Saints team is not a great team. I know their defense is pretty good. They're great, but they're pretty good. But like this Saints team isn't that good. They need to like play well against them. I'd like them to win. I think they should win. But I'd like them to play well and not be so stupid. They've just played so dumb lately. And that's really pissing me off because that's not what Bill Belichick coach teams do. And they've done that consistently really since Brady left. And even really before Brady in 2019. Like they have not played smart in the last 5 years.
You can go back to 2018 was it 18 with the Miami Miracle?
Yes.
Yeah. And this is,
which, by the way, was on which interestingly enough was on J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson's the one that screwed that play up and allowed them to score.
That and Gronk being out there.
Well, yes, that's
yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, you got to find a way to win this game too. I think for morale. And what's crazy is that, like, if we had told you before the season they go 1-3 to start the year, everybody's going to look at the schedule and say, yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's the fact that the blowout loss was the most recent one and the way it happened, which has everybody so scared. The other part is that you lose Christian Gonzalez and Matt Judon. J.C. Jackson is not Christian Gonzalez. Like there's a drop off at corner now and there and in pass rush, and that's not great. This defense, especially once you get Jonathan Jones back, I don't know if he's going to be back this week, but once he's back, like it's still a good secondary. Whenever Jack Jones returns too, it should be fine. You should be able to win with this defense. I don't know if you're going to win because of it, but you can win with this defense.
Correct.
This is where the offense has to step it up. They haven't a lot of excuses around why Saints are a good enough team. They play a lot of man coverage. This is a game where you just have to find a way to make something happen. Especially, this is the third year in a row they've started 1-3. Last year they started 1-3, finished one game out of the playoffs. The year before they started 1-3, they made the playoffs. 1-3 is not a death sentence for your playoff hopes. Mm-hmm. And I think on paper, if Mac Jones doesn't have a game like last week again and plays like he did the first 2 weeks of the season, this is a team that can get there, especially because the schedule has softened up a little bit. If you get the Mac Jones that you did last week, I think you're going to be lucky to go 500 against some of the teams that you were really counting on beating right now, and that's where you're looking at a top 10 pick. So I think you want to see Mac Jones bounce back. And even if he isn't your franchise guy, if you move on after this season, you want to see him play well enough, you can get something in return for him if you trade him, or you feel good enough with him as your backup for whatever is going to happen to play. I think you want to see him play better. But the other thing, like if the mandate here is that Bill Belichick needs to make the playoffs to keep his job, you're going to see this team fight for that. Right. Because it's clear in the locker room they like him. And the way they talk about him and revere him, they don't talk about him the way fans or media do. I'll tell you that much. And he's earned a lot of respect there. And they're going to want him to keep his job. I'd be curious to read Robert Kraft's mind right now and see what exactly he thinks about this team. So I think there's a lot of arguments that can be made on either side of what you do going forward. But man, it all starts this week. You got to put something together.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest thing, right, for me is that I just don't know. I don't think Robert Kraft wants to fire Bill Belichick. I really don't. And no matter what happens, I really don't think that he wants to fire Bill Belichick, really, regardless of the situation. Belichick has done so much for him and his family and the team that he loves, frankly, right? I mean, he owns the team, but he grew up a Patriots fan, right? So, Belichick has done so much and has been, a shepherd of the game and a historian of the game, really. And I know that the media doesn't like him because he doesn't give them the answers that they want. But he's also been very open. He had the Football Life 2009 where they followed him around. He had the Bill, the Bill and Saban or the Bill and Bill thing that he's done a really nice job of being open and talking about things that didn't involve the game. And look, he's also not throwing his players under the bus ever. He's never done that with his players ever. He will never get on the podium and talk shit about a player ever. I've never heard him do it.
Unless it's Freddie Mitchell.
Wow. But that's not his player. but you know what I mean? But he'll never get up and talk about one of his players on the stand ever. You ask him about Mac Jones and hey, we got to the whole offense got to play better and this and that. But he'll never call out a player in the media. He hasn't done it and he won't do it. He might call him out in front of the team. He might, rip him personally, but he won't do that in the media. And there's not a ton of guys that do. But the guys in the locker room like him. And he runs the ship the way he wants to run it. And look, he's not perfect anymore. And to be honest with you, the situational stuff has been irking me a bit, right? The fact that they're not good situationally anymore, the fact that they don't call the right plays in the right situation, the fact that they can't come up with big plays in big moments anymore, those things are alarming. But then at the same time, you're like, well, who are the guys that are playing? Was it because Belichick has said it millions of times. It's a player's game. The players win the games. The players play. Coaches just coach, right? But again, Bill was the GM, right? He's the one making the decisions. I think you've seen him pull off a little bit. There were reports that he didn't love Mac Jones coming out of college, that the scouts talked him into taking Mac Jones. He's listening to the scouts more often than he was in the early part of his career because he understands that, hey, things haven't been working out. Let's try. Let's just see what happens. And I think that you've seen some of that happen. But, to me, I just look at it and just think like, I get it. I understand people are pissed about Belichick, but like he's got a long way to go. But if what happened in Dallas happens a few more times this year, that's really concerning. And it makes you wonder if like he hasn't lost the locker room in some way, right? Or if he's just in over his head at this point. I don't know, but that's
one. Yeah. When I think I think a lot would depend on like how things happen too. Because if they go out there and they're getting blown out, but it's because obviously the defense just can't keep up without some of these guys. They're too banged up. That's not something Bill should be held accountable for. You can only have so many players on the roster. If they all get hurt, that's not on the coach or the GM. That's bad luck, and you throw it out and you say start again. When it comes to just like go move on to the next season. If the issue is Mac Jones, then you start having interesting conversations here because forget what you think about Bill Belichick for a second. If you got to take a ride here with a new quarterback after this season, when that happens, there's usually coaching changes. Guys don't usually get a whole lot of opportunities to draft guys. And at Bill's age, if he's only going to be here for even 3 more seasons, let's say, if everything goes well, you're not drafting a new quarterback for a coach who's going to be gone in 2 years. That's not how that's going to go. So we'll see what happens. I mean, and the other part of this too. Let's say, we hit the end of the season and we're still feeling the same way about Mac Jones we feel right now, and he's not the guy. You look around and see what your other veteran quarterback options are, right? Because you have the opportunity to trot a top 5 defense out there next season if you're bringing everybody back that you want to bring back. You can just do that. If you can bring a top 5 defense out there with coaches that can win championships, if you got an opportunity to upgrade the quarterback position and try to overhaul the offense in one offseason and go for it with a tight window, I think you have to. And I think you got to keep Bill for that. You're not going to move on to a new coach for that. As to some of the situational stuff, I do think a lot of that has to do with the players too. And this is something JT O'Sullivan didn't talk about. But one of the things I've picked up on watching film, Patriots are running into loaded boxes a ton, running to the sides of formations where they have more defenders a lot. And I don't know exactly what's in the play calls, so I can't say anything for sure. But when Brady was there and could do literally anything he wanted at the line of scrimmage because he was the offense, that didn't happen as much because he can change the play and get out of stuff or do whatever. And there's some plays where, I watch film on a running play and I'm going to watch the whole thing through. And the first thing I always do is look for the guy who made the tackle and then go back to the start of the play, look for where he is, follow him and see who is supposed to block him. There's a lot of plays where the guy who's making the tackle wasn't supposed to be blocked by anybody. He's just an extra guy. They don't have enough blockers for it. And if the Patriots are running in that situation, who's responsible? What's going on? Is this a Mac issue? Is he not making the right reads? Is this a Bill O'Brien play calling issue? Is it Bill Belichick somehow? I don't think he'd be directly involved in that process. That's something they got to clean up and fix here going forward. And I know I'm kind of rambling a bit, but
no, but listen, I think it makes sense because the part of it for me that makes sense is that they have to be able to run to win the game. They have to be able to run. And so I just, they have to figure it out because they haven't been able to run at all. And I know they ran against the Jets a little bit, 140. Was it 140 or 120? Might have been 120. We're going to go with 120. 120 yards against the Jets. So they were able to run a bit. They couldn't run against the Cowboys. They couldn't run the first 2 games either. And I know the offensive line has struggled, and I know they've played very good teams up front. I get that. You got to find a way to run it. You got to find a way, and so it's hard. It's hard to do it. I get it, but you got to find a way to do it. And so moving forward, it just becomes you have to be a run first team. This team should be a run first team. With Mac Jones as your quarterback, you need to have the threat of the run in order to be good. Right.
And if you have the threat of the run and you're getting loaded boxes and you still can't throw out of those situations, then you don't really have much hope as an offense, honestly. Right. And that's kind of where it seems like where they are. They might be running in some of these situations because they know if they try to throw it, they're going to get a pass rush that is going to blow up the play immediately. And we've talked about the right tackle situation ad nauseum, but you go to Cole Strange at left guard. I think Tom Curran, I believe on his podcast, was talking about how Strange could have surgery on his knee, but turned it down and is trying to play through it. And it's like, what do you do with that? Right. Strange hasn't looked good, but if he's not healthy and he's not going to get healthy, your offense here is banking on your first rounder and second rounder from last year playing, and they can't get on the field.
Right.
And I think there's questions about their evaluations, but neither of these guys were injury prone where they're coming from. I don't think you can really hold it against the staff that they got hurt, and you can't really hold it against the staff for banking on their first and second round picks to be good players. So I don't really know what you do with that information going forward. I don't know how you apply that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And the second guess, Mob just mentioned it too, like the second guess of DeJuan Jones. I get it. I understand the DeJuan Jones thing makes sense, right? I didn't understand that to me. Didn't make sense to me. Why not take a flyer on a guy like that? That's that big at right tackle, and just see you throw on Wenu at right guard and him at right tackle. I mean, holy crap, dude! Combine throw Trent Brown at left tackle, and you got 1,000 pounds of guys in 3 guys, and you got almost 1,000 pounds of man muscle up front, right? So maybe even over 1,000 pounds, depending on the weekend, I suppose, right? But that's the stuff for me that I don't understand. I get it. And listen, maybe he didn't fit the evaluation. Maybe they wanted a guy that was a little bit more, maybe they wanted a guy that was a little bit more athletic. Maybe they like City So's tape or potential a little bit more. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, right? But it just seems interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, and So has been banged up here, and they've gone with Lowe at right tackle.
Right.
The first thing I think I'm going to be looking for in practice reports this week is, all right, are we going to see any City So at tackle now?
Right. Right.
And especially if they're not, they gave him a lot of reps there in the preseason. And if he's healthy and he's not there and they got Lowe starting over him, man, I got some questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. You know what I mean? It's hard. So I don't know what they're going to do moving forward, but they have to figure something out offensively. Defensively, look. The J.C. Jackson trade, I love the J.C. Jackson trade, and it's funny people have been talking about, they're dumpster diving and all this. It's like, dude, stop it. The Patriots let J.C. Jackson walk, which I thought was stupid at the time. I said it at the time. I was pissed. I've been. Were we doing the podcast at that point when I don't think we were together at that point yet when they traded Stephon Gilmore for a 6th round pick in 2092. And this
is right before I came on.
Okay, yeah. And they let J.C. Jackson walk. And I have never been so mad in my life because you had 2 all-pro guys at corner, and you got literally nothing back. Nothing, not one thing back for them. And J.C. Jackson ended up getting hurt last year, so instead of getting a 3rd-round pick, you got a 4th-round pick, right? And AJ, just to be clear, just so I'm clear about this, right? You knew they were going to walk out the door. You knew they were leaving. And so I know you didn't want to pay them, but I find it very hard to believe that nobody would have traded you something for J.C. Jackson, that you couldn't have gotten more than a 6th-round pick. In 2020, if you weren't sold on Stephon Gilmore, you trade him mid-season. That team sucked. Just trade him mid-season. Who cares? Send him somewhere, get a 3rd-round pick for him or whatever, something. You get something back better than what you got in 2021 for trading him. So, I understand. That annoyed me, but fine. J.C. Jackson's been like less than 18 months since he left here, and he's already back, and you gave up nothing to get him, and you're paying him almost nothing. So, that's a win for the Patriots. And look, is he going to be great here? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if he's even going to play well. But at this point, you just say, well, I mean, we have to do something because Jack Jones still wasn't at practice today on Wednesday. I don't know if he's going to play on Sunday. Marcus Jones is out another week.
I'm guessing if Thornton there are some reports about Thornton that he's in the building but not activated yet, and I think he might be good to go for Sunday. But Jack Jones was reported as a 2-month thing, and
yeah,
I don't know if he's not there today, Wednesday. I don't think we're seeing him on Sunday.
He did try to say something like he was coming back soon, but
he said he's going to come back as soon as possible, which could mean
which doesn't necessarily
anything.
mean right.
We don't know what possible is.
Yeah,
I also think it's worth mentioning that somebody, I wish I could credit who it was, somebody had reported for the JC Jackson trade that they had already been talking about this trade before this weekend.
Yeah,
which I think says a lot about when they think Jack Jones is coming back and when they think Marcus Jones is. I think Marcus Jones done for the year probably, or close to it.
That's so sad. That's so sad.
Well, and if there's one thing that makes me more sad than anything else about this team, I think it had potential to be a truly like dominant defense in some regards. Yeah, and we're not going to get a single game of the whole thing healthy.
Yeah,
not a single game with all 11 out there that you want out there, and that's really frustrating. Which is why I hope that they don't blow this up and they can get those guys back out there next year, because I want to see this. Give me what this defense could be.
Dude, imagine Gonzo, all 3 Joneses, and JC Jackson. That's your top 5 at corner. Like, it's outrageous. Yeah. And
get ready for Miles Bryant starting.
Right, I know. And listen. Hey, to be honest, to be fair with Miles Bryant, I know he got smoked by CeeDee Lamb, but he should never be in that situation where he's covered CeeDee Lamb one-on-one. Like, he's played well this year. He has. And you just have to get him in the right situation. And so, we'll kind of see where that goes from there. But, him and Sean Wade, I think, have played pretty well. I mean,
that's a pair that could start on NFL teams with some of the coverage you see around the league. And the fact that that's your 5 and your 6 there, or your 4 and your 6, depending where we think Miles Bryant is in the depth chart, I think you got to feel good about it.
Right. And
credit to the secondary coaching too.
Yes, agreed. I agree. And to answer AJ's question, JC Jackson's in the second year of a 4-year deal. He's on, right? Isn't it a 4-year deal? So he's
got 3 or maybe 4 years left.
I'm pretty sure it's a 4-year deal. And so he signed up for quite a few years. He also has no more guaranteed money after this year, which means that the Patriots could cut him at any time and give up nothing.
Well, not any time, I think, is the key. He has a bonus and some money that becomes guaranteed at a certain date next year, or sometime in March. So I think before the new league year, they have to do something. They have to make a decision on his contract. But if he plays well enough and you want to keep him around, I think you could do the whole Danny Amendola situation where you go to him and you say, hey, we can cut you and you're going to go to the open market and you're going to make $4 million a year on a deal. We will let you stay here and pay you $5 million instead. How does that sound? One of those, if they think he's worth it. Here's the thing. I doubt they will, just because you're already paying Jonathan Jones, and if you're paying Peppers and Duggar to stay, I don't think you're also going to pay $12 million a year, which is what JC Jackson's owed for a guy who probably isn't cracking your starting lineup if everybody else is healthy. If he's cracking your starting lineup, either he's back to full form or Jack Jones is not what you expected.
I mean, maybe he plays well this year and the Patriots move him in the offseason again, right? Like they did with Jamie Collins, right? So it's like...
And the worst case is you just got an actual starting caliber corner for essentially nothing to fletch out the rest of your year, who already knows your system. It's basically a free agent pickup.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's really what it comes down to, right? A free agent pickup that you don't have to give any guaranteed money to for the most part, at least this year. So, so we'll see. Old man's asking about Keon White. I think Keon White is going to take a big chunk of Matthew Judon snaps. I think he should take a big chunk of Matthew Judon snaps. I don't know if he's going to play inside a ton, but I think I can see him moving inside and outside.
He'll play inside on passing downs.
Yeah, I think you'll see Anthony Jennings take a lot more snaps on, at D end outside linebacker. He's been great against the run. I wonder if you use him a little bit against the pass too, just because you don't have Judon out there, and kind of see where it goes from there.
And they've been doing a lot of situations where They play basically like a 3-4 defense, but one of the outside linebackers is Judon and the other one's Tavai. They like doing that in the way that looks. So you can do that. You're just going to replace Judon with Jennings in your run situations. And then when it's passing downs, you're probably going to have Keon White and Josh Uche as your two outside linebackers. I think you can get away with stuff situationally. It's tough because Judon is your best outside linebacker at all of the things. He's the best run stopper of the group. He's probably your second best pass rusher of the group. He's incredibly savvy. He's good in pass coverage too for a guy who plays that position. He's got great instincts. He rarely pulls himself out of a play with what he does, and you can't. I love Josh Uche. You can't say that about him. He'll be over aggressive at times. So whoever is in that spot, I think is going to have to play very disciplined football,
right?
Because Josh Uche and Keon White on the edge is awesome. But if you're playing Josh Allen and they both over pursue and Allen runs for 15 yards to pick up a first on you, we're all going to be sitting here annoyed, wishing we had Judon out there.
Let me tell you something right now. If I were the Patriots, which I'm not, but if I were running the show on defense, I would send the dogs after Josh Allen, and I would have Marte Mapu be the spy and just go head hunting, kid, and just go get him. You know what I mean? Like because why not, right? Like he's got the speed and athleticism to do it. Now I'm not saying he's going to like be the Josh Allen stopper or anything like that, but like try to make life difficult for Josh Allen in the pocket. And then if he gets out of the pocket, well, then just, sick Marte Mapu on him and see what happens, and maybe it doesn't work out, but I'll tell you what, I don't want it to be Mac Wilson because we saw how that turns out last year. Yeah. So,
Well, and what's nice about what New England can still do defensively, there's two parts here. One, they scheme a ton of pressure anyway, and you can still find ways to do that even with Judon not out there. So I think they'll be fine in passing downs. I'm more worried about run situations, I think, with Judon out, or like first down, like neutral downs where you don't know if they're going to run or they're going to pass. But also, it can be Mapu spying him. It can be Duggar. It can be Peppers. It can be Phillips when they decide to put him out there. And you can rotate guys and shift guys around and bring a blitz where, you thought Mapu was the spy, but he's actually blitzing, and you're going to have Duggar and Contain on the other side for when you flush him out type of thing. So I think you got options. You worry a little bit about the secondary for that Bills game whenever guys are back. Depending on who is backed by that. And it's like, you play good defense against the Bills and they can still score 27 on you. So can the offense keep up with that? Right now, it's a hard no, especially with how the Bills defense is playing. And that's looking, 2-3 weeks ahead here.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks,
Yeah.
So but, look. No, go ahead.
I think the next 2 weeks, you have to see life out of your offense. That's what's going to determine. Your defense is still good enough to play with teams. But your offense is going to have to win you games now. It was always going to have to win you games. It's more important now. You got 2 weeks here. 2 games you should win, or at least you should win if this team is going to be as good as we thought it could be.
Yeah.
Offense is going to have to get it done. I think you got to see at least 20 points in each of these next 2 games to feel good. That you want to see less than 2 turnovers combined in the next 2 weeks. We got 1 turnover for the next 2 weeks. Use it well.
Right.
And make something happen. And if we're settling for field goals, I can live with that. Right. But if you got to do it consistently, like if it's a 4 field goals and a touchdown kind of game, I think you can feel at least kind of okay with that compared to some of the things we've seen.
Right. To me, the most damning stat of all is that Mac Jones has never. It's a crazy stat to even think about. But Mac Jones has never won a game when the opponent has scored 24 points or more, which is just wild. It's wild to think that that's the truth. Like,
and that's
he's never won a game, and it's not just him. No, right. But still, the fact that he hasn't won a game when the opposing team has scored 24 points says quite a bit, right? In my opinion. Although someone said that, but then that's not quite true. I think maybe he's never won more than 24 points because he beat the Chargers. What was the score of that game? On Halloween night. It was like a super close game. Hold on. There it is right there. 27-24. So he did.
Yeah.
So,
but the defense had the game-winning touchdown in that one. Adrian Phillips.
That's right. Adrian Phillips. That's right. With pick six.
Yeah.
Yes. And they scored the Chargers. I'm just looking at here. The Chargers scored with 40 seconds left. So, like, it's not as though it was like tight the whole game, but still.
Well, and the offense did have a great drive to kind of close it out.
Right.
In that one to get a field goal. And
that's true.
They ran down like 6 or 8 minutes of clock there in the fourth quarter or something like that. Which that's something else I would love to see. Like if you're not gonna have explosive plays, let's move the ball consistently and feel good about it. And let's get some 12-yard plays in there, some 17-yard plays there. It's not technically explosive, but that's a chunk.
Yeah.
If you can get 2 of those in a drive and pick up a couple other first downs, hey, they've been winning the field position battle for the most part. They're putting themselves in good spots. They shouldn't need as many yards as other teams to score. It's just cutting down on the turnovers. Don't get yourself into bad positions. I mean, how many times have we talked about them getting down early? 9 of like their last 10 games, something like that. We've gotten themselves down early at some point or found themselves down early in the second half and had to do something. You can't consistently play from that point. You don't have the offensive weapons you used to. You don't have Brady and Gronk and Edelman and James White to lead you back for victory. You're not that offense. If you're going to win ball games, you're going to have to play from a lead or from a tie or from maybe a 3-point deficit. You can stay in that range. You don't want to be dipping any lower than that. And that's just coming out of the gates with the right mindset. And here's the thing they did last week. The first drive was good. They should have scored a touchdown on it. They even with Mac Jones misreading that play, they could have scored a touchdown on that opening drive. And the drive after that last week, they got close to scoring position. Couldn't convert on a 4th down. It's not that they can't move the ball. It's that they can't do it without making too many mistakes to cost themselves points. And there's a comment, I don't remember where it is in the chat. Somebody had said this is the worst offense in the league. I double checked it. Not that this is great, but they're 21st in yards per drive. It's not like they can't move the ball. That's not good enough, to be clear. But that's not worse. That's a little bit worse than average.
Yeah.
But they just cannot convert it into points because they can't. They keep making mistakes. And you got to find a way to clean that up. And that comes down to Mac and everybody else on offense. And Bill O'Brien.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So also, just lastly here, yes, Jonnu Smith does suck. Don't let what's happening in Atlanta confuse you. Jonnu Smith does suck. Just trust me on that. Okay.
Well, and they didn't put him in a good spot to succeed in New England. Like he has a skill set. He has things that he's good at. There's not a whole lot, but he has things that he's good at. They didn't put him in a spot for that. And I don't think he was a scheme fit next to Hunter Henry. I think that was a big part of that. And they paid him way too much money for the job they expected him to do.
Yeah. It's, get the ball to him behind the line of scrimmage and let him win with his yards after the catch. That's pretty much it,
Yeah.
So anyways, so,
I have a comment here I want to pull because I love it. Counterpoint to that: scoring is better than yards. Can we put this like in the locker room? Like I think the players need this reminder. It's not that they can't move it; just you need the actual points.
Right.
They're getting moral victories on drives right now, and you can't do that.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I understand the frustration. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just like, unfortunately, that's not what's happening right now, and a lot of it is self-inflicted, and so it's something they got to clean up. So all right. So in conclusion, if you're just coming to the podcast, Mac Jones stinks, and he's walking. No, I'm just kidding. No. Listen, I'm out on Mac Jones. Matt isn't out on Mac Jones just yet. I'm not out on Mac Jones to the point where I want Bailey Zappi to start because Bailey Zappi stinks even more than Mac Jones does. And just ask every other team in the NFL.
Can I actually add a comment there?
Yes.
This isn't even like a pro Bailey Zappi thing, but you could notice when he came into the game on Sunday against Dallas, there were a couple concepts that dialed up where he just went in there and stood in the pocket, stepped up and made a throw and made it look easy. And this isn't me advocating for Bailey Zappi over Mac Jones. This is me saying, hey, there's opportunities there and Mac needs to make these plays. Because if you want to make this a quarterback competition, have this happen a couple more times and we're back in a competition.
When at this
Bailey
point,
Zappi shows he can do that.
And that's the thing. Like at this point, if Mac plays at even one more game the way he did in Dallas, what's the point? Why keep him in there? It doesn't matter. Like,
You're only
I
keeping
think
him in there
Bailey
if the
Zappi's
other options are that bad.
well, but here's the thing. I think Bailey Zappi's worse than Mac Jones. I think Bailey Zappi's not very good. But if you're going to get what you got in Dallas, even more than once, right? Like, what's the point? He can't be worse than that. Like, what difference does it make at that point?
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah.
that's the thing for me is that if Mac's going to be that bad, it just doesn't even matter. Like, put Will Greer in, put friggin' Malik Cunningham in. Who cares? What difference does it make at that point? Like, it doesn't. Pull me in from the sideline. What difference does it make? Like if he's going to play the way he played in Dallas, it doesn't matter who's in there. Maybe not me. I don't have a very good arm. I have a fine arm, but not for an NFL quarterback. I know. So, anyways, all right, let's get into our last few segments here. We will
Do our props?
Yeah, let's do the prop bets first. So, just a quick little prop bet update. Last week, I went 0-2 again because I'm terrible with this. I had Tyreek Hill over 87.5, which I should have faded that. I'm stupid. And I went Ryan Tannehill under 0.5 passing TDs, and he had one passing touchdown, the same amount as Derrick Henry. You went 1-1. You had Vikings Panthers, the over 45.5, and Broncos Bears, the over 46.5. That's the one that's hit. So you are 4-4. I am 2-6. It's not going well for me, but that's okay.
No.
That's okay. You want to go with your first? You want to go with mine? What do you think?
Mine deserve to go together.
All right. So why don't I do one, and then you can do both, and then I'll do the last one. Okay. So I have two alternate spreads. Two alternates.
Okay.
Right? So I'm teasing them. All right. Not really teasing, but yeah. Okay. Jets versus Broncos. I'm going this week. I'm bringing the total, which I think is 40.5. I'm bringing the total all the way down to 32.5, and I'm going under 32.5. Jets, Broncos, plus 400, under 32.5.
See, you didn't let me get an alternate line when I bet the Broncos-Miami game. Why do you get the alternate line now?
Because your alternate line was going to be like 8. Well, I guess you could have done that. That's true. That was just before the rules that we've instituted. Although I think that's not quite high enough to get extra points.
Yeah.
So, but yes. So anyway, so that's what it is. Plus 400, under 32.5 for Jets versus Broncos.
I actually have one in that same game, but that's not the first one I'm going. I have a pairing here that is just sicko. Mine last week was I took the over on both of the 0-3 versus 0-3 games.
Love it.
And I think I've topped that with what I've got here.
I love it.
I'm doing a Thursday night prop to start us out because we got to make Thursday night interesting. It's Bears Commanders. Just amazing content right there. I'm taking under Justin Fields passing yards, 189.5.
189. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then we're going to that Jets-Broncos game. And I'm looking at this Broncos defense. And I'm going over Zach Wilson passing yards, 201.5. The 2021 quarterbacks. I'm betting their passing yards this weekend for some sicko stuff here, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. All right. So it's Zach Wilson over 201.5. Is that the number?
Yeah.
201.5 passing. Correct?
Yeah. Which rooting for Zach Wilson to throw the ball this weekend is going to be very weird feeling.
So awesome. I love it. And then what was the other one?
Under Justin Fields,
right?
189.5.
189, dude. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love it.
Yeah. I don't think Justin Fields has a two good games in a row here.
I think you're probably right. If we're being honest.
Not against that defense.
Yeah. All right. So my last one, I have also brought this one, changed this one a bit. I'm going with a spread on this one. Houston is the underdog on the road against Atlanta, and I think that's lunacy. I think it's lunacy.
I love this.
So I am teasing, or I'm bringing Houston to minus 3.5 and taking that at plus 176.
Oh, I love it.
So
Texans are kind of fun this year. I didn't see this coming.
Right? They are. So yes. So that's what I'm doing is I'm taking Houston to minus 3.5. And again, I think it's only like plus 1.5. It's not crazy. They're not like crazy underdogs, but it's basically a pick 'em because the NFL typically gives about 3 points for the home team. So so it's basically a pick 'em, but I flipped the script and said, no, I'm going.
Especially after Desmond Ridder for Atlanta last week.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, come on now. They're terrible.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Right.
That's what I got for you. Trivia first, and then we'll finish with this week in sports history.
All right. So the trivia question I had asked last week was a little bit too hard, and as far as I'm aware, nobody got it. I haven't seen anybody with an answer. I went a little too niche with it. I went for the 2007 Pats-Cowboys game. Who scored the game-winning touchdown? Thought somebody could dig deep on this and grab it, but nobody did. The answer, Kyle Brady, was the one who caught that one.
Fun answer.
We'll go for something a little bit more recent on this question tonight. That 2013 Pats-Saints game, we all know Kenbrell Tompkins caught the game-winning touchdown, but which Patriots receiver caught the fourth down conversion before it to set up the score? Answers in the chat or on Twitter or whatever. Whoever gets it first is going to be part of our entry. We'll give you the answer for it in the next episode. And yes, no nonsense gaming. Kyle Brady was a tight end.
Drafted in the first round, actually, by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Huh. Legend.
Yep. So
Brady got drafted in the first.
Yes, that's true. Very true. See. All right. So all right. Let's finish as we always do with our final segment of the day.
And now for something we think you'll really like. This week in sports history.
All right, Matt. I'm gonna let you go first because I think that I have one that you are gonna say. So I'm gonna let you go first because I think you have it, and so I'm gonna let you take it.
All right. Well, on this day in 2001, is this? All right, not the same one. Bruins retired Ray Bourque's jersey in the NHL season opener at Boston Garden, beating the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim 4-2.
I love it. So I have two of them. One of them is in 1906. This day in 1906, the Chicago Cubs beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-0 and ended the MLB season 116-36 with a 763 winning percentage, which of course is unmatched since then because that is outrageous that they would have a 763 winning percentage. So that was it looked like they only played 152 games that year, but nevertheless, 763 is outrageous. And then the final one, this is the one I thought you would have, is on this day in 2018. Tom Brady becomes only the third NFL QB to record 500 career passing touchdowns as he connects with
Josh Gordon.
Against the Colts.
Was this Thursday Night Football against the Colts? Was it Thursday night or was it? It was a nighttime game.
It was definitely a night game. I don't know if it was Thursday night or Sunday night, but it was definitely a night game. And he scrambled around in the backfield for a million years and just threw this friggin' moonshot that Josh Gordon jumped up and ripped away from three guys.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
It was
play.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the old color rush uniforms too.
Yes. Yep. Which I guess are now the new uniforms, I suppose. But
if you want to get technical, there are
differences. I know they're not, but yes, Matt will correct me if I say they are they're not technically the ones, but they look like
there's a couple differences that are meaningful. But
agreed.
Same in theory.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So, all right, that does it for the show. Listen, people are pissed. They deserve to be pissed. I get it.
Hey, let's end on a good note here. If we're talking Boston sports, Drew Holiday, what'd you think?
Listen, man, it kills me like kills me to give up Rob Williams. Kills me.
Yeah.
Brogdon, I get it. They had to move. Fine. But like, it kills me to give up Rob Williams. But at the end of the day, you needed him. You needed Drew Holiday, and he's a phenomenal defender. He's a better point guard than Marcus Smart. Like, you're a better team now than you were at the beginning of the offseason. You've added Porzingis and you've added Drew Holiday. Now, the question is, can they all stay healthy, right? But that was the question going into the end of this year without those guys. So you get the same questions going on. But if everyone stays healthy, this team is the best team in the East, and should be and could be representing the Eastern Conference in the finals against whomever's there again. So we'll see.
Yeah. So Celtics are the bright light, and Bruins start soon too, and
they do.
I don't know if they're going to be good, but Luch is back, and I'll always root for Milan.
Yeah,
Lucic.
they'll be fun. I don't know if they're going to be as good as. Certainly, they had to give up a ton of guys, but I think that they'll be young and fun. I'm hoping at least. We'll see.
They got some guy they drafted in the second round a couple of years ago who's like 19, who might be their first line center. I don't even know how to say his name. I'm not going to try it.
No, don't even try it. It's not worth it. But
is it French? Yeah, I'm not gonna. I say that with my last name being
don't
Saint
even
Jean,
say it's French. Like, it doesn't even. We don't even know.
Yeah.
Just it doesn't matter. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? Just let it go. But it's great. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And that's like, let the young kids play and see what you got. That's the way I feel about it. They got a few young guys heading up in the system. So
that lesson could apply to some Patriots receivers too.
100%. Let's hope it does. Because I've seen enough of Juju. I'd love to see more.
Give me some.
Pop Douglas needs to be out there more than 35% of the snaps.
Pop.
Don't do that again.
Have you not seen Community?
I have. I love Community. I treasure the whole show, but like, come on. So, but anyways, guys, thank you for showing up in the chat. As always, chat was flying tonight. We appreciate you guys having conversations in there.
And a note for our viewers: no show on Sunday.
That's correct.
Pat is busy. I'll be at the game. We're going to do the show, I believe, on Monday instead.
I think so. Yeah, my sister-in-law is getting married, so I'll be at the wedding. Funny note, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but funny note, I've missed 3 games in the last 10 years because of weddings. Once in 2013, once in 2021, and once in 2023. And every single time they've been playing the New Orleans Saints. I don't know how that's possible. The odds of that being the case back in 2013 is insane. But that's the case. So and they've played the Saints exactly 3 times at home since 2013, and I've missed all 3 of them for a wedding. So, it's crazy. But anyways, that's one of the weird anomalies of the universe, I guess. So
how it happens.
Yep. But Matt will have fun at the game.
You're going to be busy on a random Sunday in 4 years too, I'm sure.
Probably, yes.
The next time they come to town.
Or they'll be in, London or something like that, and I won't be able to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know what? If they're in London, I might have to fly over for the game just to say I went to a home game against the Saints. Right. I agree. So,
or go to New Orleans in 4 years.
That's a better idea. So
I like that.
You guys know I do one road trip a year. I'm doing Pittsburgh this year, and then maybe I'll have to make New Orleans a trip in 4 years. It sounds like a great plan.
I'll come with you to Pat's Nation.
I like that. I like that.
Boys, New Orleans.
No doubt. That's great. That sounds like fun. All right. Well, anyways, we're rambling here. We appreciate you guys. We love you. We'll talk to you on Monday, hopefully recapping a big win against the New Orleans Saints.